have it. But
this meeting is being recorded.
So therefore, I am, with so much love and so much appreciation, going to turn it over to Bonnie and Diana right now to welcome you officially into tonight's class. And Diana, just let me know when you want me to bring the slides up and what slides you want me to bring up, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I would like to start with prayer. So I'm going to ask one of our practitioners if you would mind praying us in, and you can volunteer or I can call on you. But I'd like to start with an invocation or a spiritual mind treatment, whatever it is, that so we can continue to demonstrate what prayer looks like through a variety of individuation aspects of God. Any volunteers?
Perfect volunteer.
That sounded like the volunteer right there.
The dog spoke.
That's not fair.
There you go. Well,
I think if she spoke, she should do the mind treatment, not me.
speaking for you.
Okay. So if we just take a moment and just take a breath in and let it out, and just know that we know that this is a gift. So many gifts, so many things to be grateful for. Just another breath in. And if you allow your eyes to close, just be in the silence and in the peace of the moment. I know that there is only one God. I know that this God is called by many, many, many names. And I know that whatever the name is, the bottom line is love. This God is a God of energy, a God of passion, a God of just love, just pure love. And the answer to any situation, any condition, bottom line, is love, is God. I know that this God is present everywhere. This God is internal, infinite, eternal, a God that has been here before the beginning of time, and a God that will last way beyond and into eternity and forever, beyond the time that we call time. We know that this God is everywhere present. This God is internal, intimate, eternal, infinite, all present, all knowing, all loving. And as I stand, as I am, Sandria, I know that this God is intimate to me, is intimate to all who are on this call, to everyone the same. This God surrounds us, and we are embodied, and we embrace the idea of this presence, this passion, this heat, this loving presence that is our God. And so I know, and I open my heart into a knowing beyond knowing, that this congregation, this meeting is complete. Everything that we need to say is said, and everything that we need to do is done, and every understanding and everything that we need to embrace is embraced, is understood on a level far beyond any that we can imagine. And that as we turn our lives over to this presence and to this God and to this meeting, we know that when it is done, we walk away changed, better. And the world is changed and better for us meeting right here and right now. So I am in gratitude before it's manifest. I'm in gratitude right now because we've spoken the word, we've agreed on it, and we know that it is done. So I release this word into perfect law. I release anything in my consciousness that would stand in the way or disrupt this. All cleared, all washed out. We all drained in the swamp. We give thanks for that. And so I release it once again. I put my hands behind my back. I lower my head in reverence to the law that surpasses all understanding and is fair. And I just say, if you agree with me, say with me, Ashe.
Ashe.
Amen.
Amen.
So it is.
No, it is.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Beautiful.
Woohoo.
Hey, way to go. Beautiful.
Thank
So-
you, Sandria. That was beautiful.
So students, did you notice the steps? And a perfect invocation, perfect. So it's realization, unification, blessing, letting it go. That's what an invocation is. So thank you so much, Sandria. That is a deep awakening for us to open ourselves to. So I'm going to ask you to get out your text and turn it to page 56.
You need that piece of paper? No. And could we turn this up a little bit?
Everybody got it? Page 56. Give me a signal that you've got it.
In the Science of Mind book or in the workbook?
Science of Mind book.
The mind.
Oh, good. Okay.
You
Sorry
said,
about that.
you said page 56. My 56 doesn't look like yours.
56. No, that it's probably what it is. What Jack had on the screen was nothing to do with the reading.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
I know we've trained you elsewise and we're going to
Right,
change it
right.
up.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. So going down that page to where it says, I am. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to read it, and I'm going to ask each one of you to take a turn reading a sentence. So who would like to go first? Okay.
You said to, I am a center in the
Right.
divine mind?
Yes.
I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God consciousness, life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth.
Okay, now let's let someone else read the next sentence.
Or two.
There is power in this word that I speak because it is of the truth and it is the truth.
Go ahead and read the next one too.
There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and in my affairs.
Okay,
All
someone else?
All belief in wrong action is dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has power, and right action is power, and power is God, the living Spirit Almighty.
Yes. Sue, again.
What'd you say, Bonnie?
Sue.
Oh, Sue. Okay.
Oh, okay,
This
where are we?
spirit.
The spirit. This spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled.
Betty, why don't you take from there?
Okay. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course at all times.
Joel, do you have it? Are you following along?
You can read Joel, I think. Joel.
Unfortunately, the version that I have is not corresponding to yours, so I'm trying to find that section.
All
Sorry.
right. That's all right. All suggestion of age, poverty, limitation, or unhappiness is uprooted from my mind and cannot gain entrance to my thought. I am happy, well, and filled with perfect life. I hand it off to Janice.
I live in the spirit of truth and am conscious that the spirit of truth lives in me. My word is the law unto its own manifestation and will bring to me or cause me to be brought to its fulfillment.
There is no unbelief, no doubt, no uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know. Let every thought of doubt vanish from my mind, that I may know the truth, and the truth may make me free. Let's take a deep breath together. Now, there's a great minister, and our beloved Diana can talk about this, but Lloyd Tupper used to have this on a card and have everybody read it all the time. So I'm just going to suggest to you that you try reading it every day and see what happens. Just see what happens, because that is a pretty profound description of everything you're going to learn in this course. Yes?
Yes.
All right. So what did you get from the text? What did you learn this week? Help me out. What were your glimmers? So I'm going to refer you to page 280. In that first paragraph down to, we should be sure to erase from our consciousness any sense of lack. What's your gut reaction to that statement? Erasing any concept such as lack. Sandria, what do you think?
I knew you were going to do that. Why do I always know that? I love you too. So there was so much in this reading that I had to make notes on my computer. So I typed in notes from all of this. What I get from that, if we have lack, or if I have lack, that's a thing that creates a mental equivalent, because God always grants whatever we want to have in our thoughts. And so the law doesn't know good or bad, but it just knows.
Right.
And so if I have an idea of lack or limitation, that's my mental equivalent, and that's what I get to get.
Exactly. It's a very powerful understanding. Thank you, Sandria, because, you know, sometimes we think we need to treat the lack. Not. You don't want to treat the lack. You want to treat what?
The positive, abundance, the opposite.
Right, the opposite of it. Excellent. All right, now let's go to 282. And down at the bottom in big capital letters, it says, desert the truth. So let's start with, stay with the one. Who's willing to read it?
I'll read it. Stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. When things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. When things look the worst is the best time to work, the most satisfying time. The person who can throw himself in with a complete abandon into that limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, is the one who will always receive the greatest reward.
Okay, reaction. Betty, what's your reaction to that?
Well, it is done unto me as I believe. So I need to believe in a greater spirit, a greater God consciousness,
Right.
to expand my understanding and consciousness in a way that invites that wholeness from the divine.
And the best time to work is when there's a big problem.
Yeah.
So Reverend Jack, you were on it. Illuminate a little bit. Why is that true?
Because we are looking at the very opposite of the worst. We're
Right,
looking at the best possibility.
right.
And so that temptation or that test is where we have to confront it.
We have to confront doubt mostly. You know, whenever a big problem shows up, our first thing that kind of is a reflexive or reflected reaction is doubt. You know, oh no, this is the problem that is beyond all the problems. It's the biggest problem. But the truth is, exactly in these words, this is the time. This is the time to really know this truth. And not only that, when you understand this and you get this demonstration, it's big. So I want to give you an example. Years ago, when I was at Oakland Center, I was part of a group that was putting together a part of Season for Nonviolence, and we were going to meet with the Baha'is. And I was so excited about it. I was really personally thrilled about it. And I got to church, and the announcement gave the wrong address. And I was just mortified. And then I looked at the program, it had the wrong address. I was furious. So I went out to the parking lot, just rah, 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 who's responsible for this? Da, 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 da. And a fellow practitioner came up to me and said, do you see what you're doing? Do you see what you're doing? And I took a big go, went to the occasion. It was packed. Everybody got there. There was no problem at all. But when I got home, the phone rang, and what was on the phone? Da, 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 da. Whatever we put out is going to come back, right? So this idea of really throwing ourselves into this infinite receptivity is a big concept. It's a big concept to understand that it is as simple as whatever you put out there is what's going to come back. And so you're not going to be fooled when something happens that looks like a major obstacle, because that is an indication that something else is about to be born. Something is about to happen that's way beyond your limitation of they didn't put it in the bulletin, they didn't say it right, you know, da, da, da. So I have mine underlined, and I frequently go to this very page, especially when I've got some situation that it's really, this is the proof positive that something's wrong with this philosophy, right? To remind myself that it's in the problems that we train our mind. It's all of this is about training your mind. It's training your mind how to use this mind. Any reactions to that?
Well, Bonnie, is this just the basic human incentive to go toward the light when something is happening that is untoward or something that is frightening? Or
Well, I think that our conditioning in our subjective mind that could have been from parents or school or the TV or Facebook or whatever, our tendency is to go to, this is the worst problem. This is the worst problem. As opposed to something like this. I can't wait to see the good that's going to come out of this. But it's a really important teaching in religious science because you're going to get more demonstrations from training your mind to be anticipating the good. Anybody else have a reaction?
So for me, what I've learned is that, you know, when the shit hits the fan, it's a big relief that I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to ask the Janus mind anything. It ain't my responsibility to figure it out. What's my responsibility is to be still and allow that infinite intelligence to move me towards what's, you know, mine to do. So it's a big relief because I'm not going to ask the same mind that created the problem to give me the answer.
And you had a big word in there that was really, really a state of consciousness that's so important, which is called allow. 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 All out. You know, it's like full expression. I look at it this way. Since we are the individuation of Spirit God, we are its voice, we are its hands, we are its eyes, we are that. That doesn't mean that we are all of it because it's beyond that. But if we allow ourselves to be open and be a vehicle to let it come through us, then we're guided impeccably. So as you do your treatments too, and always remember to put in there in your words, divine right order, you know, that things are happening in divine right order. And most of us, if we look back at our lives, we can see some of the worst things that happened to us were the best things that happened to us. There was something where we learned something that was really important and fundamental. So this is a part of really understanding what mental equivalents are all about. All right, so I'm going to refer us to 285. Down toward the middle of the page, it says faith in God. So someone read that one.
Do it. Faith in God is such a complete conviction that the Spirit will make the gift that there is no longer any subjective contradiction. This faith can exist only in such degree as the conviction is in line with reality. We cannot believe that any law of the universe will ever change its own nature because we desire it to do so. As we come into the spiritual realm, which is a perfectly natural and normal realm, we have to come into it in its own nature. It is a unity. There must be nothing vicious in it. Remember that what Jesus said, therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest thou thy neighbor hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, that's good. That's good
Okay.
stuff there.
Okay.
So why? Somebody tell me why.
Because how can I offer a gift when my hands are, I'm going to say it this way, but I don't know any other, my hands are unclean.
Yes.
I'm not come pure because there's something between me and my sister or my brother that has not been resolved.
Right.
And that's going to, in some sense, negate my gift. Or
Right. Right. Anybody think of a reason why that would be true? All right, let's go to 283 then.
doesn't that interfere with the law?
It does interfere with the law, but what's the natural subjective mind do in circumstances like that?
Well,
Bring my gift to the altar. What's the human response?
if I bring my gift to the altar and I have unforgiveness, or my neighbor, well, he says my neighbor has unforgiveness for me. Since we are of one mind, that's an interference.
Yes, it is.
That's an interference.
Right. But
What?
would you say, Andrea, that one of the things that happens when we do something really good and it's not received well, that we get a little pissed off?
Yeah.
And when we get a little pissed off, then we go into another stage, which is, but I'm not supposed to get pissed off. I'm a spiritual person. And then we do this. Oh, I'm terrible. I'm not worthy. Right. So faith, our necessity of cultivating a practice of faith is foundational. And remember the first question that we asked you in the first class. Do you believe the universe is for you? That's where this question comes to play. Because if you are fearful or angry, you are doing what? You are separating from it, right? And the law of life is, what is it going to give back?
Fear and separation.
Fear and separation. So it's like a fundamental thing to train your mind when you have a human reaction, to not pretend you don't, not to beat yourself up. But Holmes had a really good phrase about this. And his phrase was, self-deprecation serves no one. In other words, the idea of you putting yourself down doesn't help the situation. Chainsaw massacres just gives you more chainsaw massacre. So the answer that is so crucial in this fullness of faith is self-love. So, okay, help me out. I brought my gift to the altar. I'm pissed off that somebody isn't pleased about it. I notice I put myself in all kinds of, oh my God, what kind of a practitioner am I, right? What would the treatment be?
For me to let go of that.
Into the nothingness. Into the nothingness. It's nothing. It's no thing. And it's a place where those parts of ourselves, as we self-discover our shadow sides or our conditioned self, because, I don't know about you, but I was raised in a household where they would tell you your gift was not worthwhile. Would tell you you were nothing. What a ridiculous gift you brought, right? That it's embracing that and bringing that in to the consciousness of self-love. In other words, to give oneself a treatment for self-love. Anybody else have an idea about that? What do you think, Janice?
Well, I know for sure that I don't know what I'd do without my affirmative prayer on I am worthy of my good, not some, not a little bit, but all good. It's that unity prayer that is it primes the pump. Before I do any kind of treatment or go into any kind of visioning, I'll always do the prayer on worthiness so that I can release anything that might be in the way of me accepting and allowing the good to come. Because
it's the eraser. It's a
Yeah.
big white board.
Yeah.
there's a place where we have to erase that.
And to know, really know that the law is impersonal.
Mhm.
So I used to, it sounds terrible. It's like God doesn't give a rat's ass about what you did, what you think you did, what others think you did, and what you think others think you did. So it's really, you can sit there all day and regret, or you can just let go. Again, it's just kind of, it's a waste of time,
Yes.
but it's something that we do. So what I have to do is actually condition my mind by constantly saying that prayer. And I can tell you, there are some days where I'm living it, and some days where I need to say it 3 or 4 times to really get it.
Right.
Depends upon what I'm doing in my day.
And, you know, to erase from our idea of doing that for other people.
Mhm.
You know, in other words, if somebody says, oh, you know, that darn president, he's blah, 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 blah. It's our opportunity to go into our mind and say, tain't so. Tain't so. To see the truth with that erasure. Okay, let's turn to page 284.
Bonnie, can I ask one thing before we go to 284? What about forgiveness in this?
Yeah, well, let's talk about forgiveness. What is it?
Well, it's certainly a clearer. And I was thinking that bringing your gift and your brother has an ought against you and you're entangled in it. Another way to disentangle myself would be to forgive my brother and to forgive myself.
Particularly because your brother is your
Yeah, we're one and the same.
You
Yeah.
understand that everything that you see and everything you're involved with is you.
Okay.
You understand that forgiveness is a very powerful tool, but it's not the forgiveness of you must forgive. It's the attitude of yay! I get to lift all of this off of my shoulders. Brother who is me, president who is me, you know, in other words, understanding that we're in this great quantum field where we don't really describe what we see what we describe.
Mhm. You know, the thought I had was the difference between me bringing the gift because I want you to love me, or I love you and therefore I bring the gift.
Yes.
So there's the difference. It's the motivation, or what is it behind the gift?
It is, and it's the same place as I gave to Sandria last time. The affirmation is, I am the gift. I am the gift. Everything that I do, I am the gift. And when you allow that to be really a training part of you, then let's go to page 284. And about a little bit more than half down, it says, faith looks. Somebody read that one.
What? No. You read it. Faith looks to the invisible, and instead of seeing a void, it fastens its gaze upon a solid reality. Faith is not hope, it is substance. It does not look away from itself. Being substance, it looks within itself. In doing this, it realizes that the life of God is also the life of man. Faith affirms this and denies anything and everything that contradicts what to it is the supreme fact of existence.
Hello. Hello. Rest on that one.
Yes, I remember that when my brother said, oh, you're just a girl, you can't do anything. I used to think, well, I'm smarter than you are. So it felt like, water on a duck's back, because my respect for their credibility was.
Yes, and in the fullness of faith,
in the fullness of faith, they are a divine being, perfect as they are.
Hello. It's like, wow, okie dokie. It's on now, yes?
Yes.
One of the things that motivates me a lot, and then I'm going to turn this over to our beloved Diana for the next. No, actually, Diana, we're going to do the slide next.
The what?
The slide for the symbol.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I was raised in a little tiny cow town in a family that was not Mormon, in a whole town that was Mormon. And so it was interesting. Every year, the first day of school, myself, my sister, and two brothers were put up in front of the school and announced as the heathens. And then there would be a prayer that this would be the year that we would convert. Now, you may think I'm telling you, ain't it awful? I'm not telling you, ain't it awful? Because it was in that very place that I got to self-examine. What is a heathen? Am I a heathen? No, I'm not a heathen. So it's very often in the obstacles that the very treasures, I call them the cookie crumb, are brought to our experience. So we don't ever want to be lulled by the idea of this perfect picture. What we want to be lulled by is that there is no picture, that it's not perfect. Got it? So Jack, can you put up that slide for us so that we can talk about what that means when it comes to building our faith?
Building a healing consciousness.
Oh, that's the beginning of our class. There it is. All right. Whoops.
Back, Jack. Back.
So if you look at this, you'll kind of recognize our religious sign symbol, meaning that at the top is the ideal, and it descends, and we often teach it in foundation as the seed that goes into the soil that becomes a flower, right? But this one I really like because it explains something I think is really important for what we're talking about in terms of a mental equivalent. As we plant a seed, this is our goal, or what we want, or a condition we'd like to see. We very often start off with a good intuition. We have an idea, and as it passes through the mental plane, it's really helpful for there to be some imagination and some inspiration. That part really activates the action which creates the experience. And then once we have activated it, then we get to see it going back up. We've seen a demonstration in the world and we have a reaction to that. And we have a feeling like, wow, this is way cool. And we recognize it, and then we allow it to be within us. But I want to point out something along here. In this stage where it's coming down from the ideation, there's also a place over here, instead of intuition and idea and imagination and inspiration, we are subjected to people who would say you're a heathen, or you didn't do it right, or you're just a girl, or you're too bossy, or whatever. And that very often we're surprised way later in our life that that's still driving us. It's still a part of how we think. So part of the skill of learning how to train yourself to use this is to understand that you have hidden beliefs, that you have beliefs in you that were not the truth, and they were planted by other people. So it's a powerful thing to know that we can sidestep that by calling out the intuition, by calling out the imagination, by calling out or calling forth anything that is unlike what we want, so that we're allowing ourselves to clear that and to be cognitive of, to be aware that we are clearing things out that really don't belong to us. What's your reaction to that? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Tell me
It
why.
does. Because if I am one with everyone, the truth of that is that the gifts of each are equally validated across the spectrum.
Right.
And so to live in the truth is to respect that, to respect myself as well as other people in their divine nature.
Yes. And very often when we're still stuck in something, that's when we get to call our prayer partner or call a practitioner and have someone lift this out of our subjective mind. Because sometimes it is so entrenched in how we think about who we are that we're not recognizing, and a prayer partner can say the right words to lift it right out.
Right.
Anybody else have a reaction to that?
And what comes to mind for me too is that when that person or that the voice whispering that is suggesting a duality.
Yes.
And he speaks of there not being a duality. That's something that is a construct that's not real.
Right.
So if I'm addressing the duality, then I'm also not focusing on what is the reality.
Right.
If there is no duality.
There is some very subtle things involved, and that is that if God is love, do you believe that? Raise your hand if you believe that.
Yes.
Then there's nothing but love that's showing up.
That's right.
And if you understand that, love has many ways of showing up. But if you don't doubt that, you'll see it. You'll see it. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, how are you doing with this?
Struggling a little bit with that one, but yes.
Yes. Joel, how are you doing with this?
It brings a lot up to chew. It was helpful for you to say having a prayer partner, because what I was seeing is like, if you are to allow then the unconstructed or negative to have voice, you can keep digging up the dirt. And there's that, Native American idea that, be careful if you're looking for demons because you'll always find them.
Right.
So I guess the kernel that I get, one of the things that the glimmers that you've offered there is to have some sort of ally to kind of give you another face or open your perspective to what is possible, rather than, for me personally, it's very easy to get stuck in the muck and kind of go down that rabbit hole.
Yes. Yes, and I would suggest to you that we're pretty trained to do that. There's a big training course. It's called school. It's called parenting.
Amen.
You know, there's a big training for that. And so the great news is that we get to retrain, retool, redo it. So there are tools in our belt that we get to use. So Diana, what kind of tools are those?
Well, I want to go back to the teaching symbol here because I really love the teaching symbol. And as I'm looking at it, I had never thought about it from the, we call it the creative process, but that creative process is always working. So if I've got something that's happened that was traumatic, that it, comes from and goes down and manifest, and then I victimize, and then I come back up and, I have all of this energy that goes around it. And mind you, that's where I started from in this teaching, was I was definitely coming out of victim consciousness, which is where this training comes from. It's financial freedom, but it's the coach. And it's like, who are my passengers? And so, it's like, and what do I believe in? Do I believe that all is love and all is good? Or do I believe that there is this other thing out there? And how do I know? Look at my circumstances. Am I engaged in, if I say, oh, all is light, all is love, and, I'm not doing well in relationships, my finances are sucky, really, am I in that flow? Or is there something in this creative process that I can intervene with? Can I plant a new seed? Yes, the seed of perhaps abuse or whatever it was from the collective unconscious or the collective consciousness, whether it was parenting, teaching, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever it was, I can be victim to that, or I can take this new seed of truth and say, I know that love is all there is, and that I have faith, because it was very hard for me when I first walked into this teaching to say I have faith in God, because I'd felt God had abandoned me long ago in the church that I belonged to, and then cast me out in the world and said, go out and be with the heathens, when, it was like, whoa, I thought you told me not to do that. And because I smoke cigarettes, you're sending me out there. So I just continued with that mental equivalent of living. I continued to collect evidence to support just that. And I kept planting the unconscious seeds over and over and over. And I got more victimization and more and more. And I, came into this philosophy going, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can believe in that. And somebody said, just a little willingness is all that we ask of you, a little willingness. And that's where it grew from. And this creative process was, and the teaching symbol was something that it was like, oh, and I loved when I was in training, we did use the planting the seed, and, it's like, I don't plant that seed and later I pick it up and go, why aren't you growing? There is a trust process in it. I let it go through its process so that it can demonstrate what it is that I planted. But when we think about mental equivalence, that's kind of the same thing. What's coming, what I'm yielding is what has been in my mental consciousness. What's the mental equivalent is showing me outside of my life. So if I don't like what's there, how can I shift it? What can I do? And that's what we've been about. I'd also like to go back and talk a little bit about the forgiveness piece. And I had a hard time with that at first too. And it's like, when you get that there is only one of us here and we're the individuated aspects of the divine, it's easier to grasp. But my earlier piece of that was, can I give it forth? Taking the word forgiveness and turn it around, give forth. give forth that energy that I'm holding, that I'm keeping it locked into that mental equivalent and getting more and more and more. Can I just, and I do this in my mind's eye, lift it up, toss it away, and say, I'm giving it forth. It is not the truth of who I am. It may be something that occurred or happened, to me, but now I don't even do that because it's happened for me. Because without some of that stuff, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. But so I needed to have some of that information, is what I call it. Life is just information, and it's what I'm making up about it. And how can I be empowered enough to shift it rather than be stuck in it? And mind you, I got here probably around age 35. I was already pretty grounded in where I came from and what life looked like. And I kept repeating it and repeating it and repeating it, even when I started learning these principles, until one day that idea of the mental equivalent didn't feel so ominous and unable to wrap my arms around. So I think that what we're going to do next, given that we've done a lot of talking about the mental equivalent, and I like to think about it as this. Thanks, Jack. I think that's exactly what I want you to have up there. What's the word you can make out of the first two letters of that mental equivalent?
Me.
Me. Because that's really what it is. It's, what is within me, that is creating, and I mean that contracted part, because that's not the truth of who we are. The contracted part is not the truth. The problem, the condition, the circumstance, that is not the truth. But the mental equivalent in which I'm holding it from, that's that little me. And I can do something about that. And so what we're proposing today, and we did some reading, and I need to ask, did everybody do the reading today? And I'm not, it's not a mark against you if you did not, but I want to be able to ask some questions, because I love this definition that we find on this page. And so it says, part of our brain which acts as a micro switchboard, filtering out that which our belief system has set as not for me grid, and letting through to our consciousness that our belief system is allowed in as part of our lives. What's this called? What does it say that it's called? The next sentence.
Diana, where are you? I didn't see where you were reading from.
From the first paragraph in the what's up on the screen. It's the last sentence.
Oh, okay. Oh, reticular formation.
Okay.
It's a vision.
This micro switchboard within, filtering out which belief system has set as a not for me grid. So it's, here we are, we have this expansiveness of, we have access to it all, but we do this, we sort for something. And then when we do this sorting, what happens is that's all we're seeing. And an activity that we had hoped to engage you with, and let's see, do we have time? I want to make certain that I can do it accurately and not flub it up. Because it's never good if you don't give the right punchline to the joke, and it's really not a joke, but it's good not to do it from a training standpoint too. So I just want you to look around your room right now and take in all the colors that's facing you. Just, admire all the colors that you can see and let that in to your eyes, that reticular aspect. now I want you to only see the color red. Look around and just sort out and see the color red. Did you notice that when you first started looking, how much red was in your room? Or if there was red in your room? And now that you're sorting for red, do you see more red than you saw when you were looking for at all the colors? Now, I want you to go out and look around again and see the blue.
It's all right.
Actually, I don't want you to see blue. I don't want you to see blue. That's what I don't want you to see any blue.
But
What's happening, Sandria?
uh,
What's happening?
well, when you say don't see blue, guess what I do?
That's right.
I see blue.
And so that is a quick demonstration of how we sort for things. You know, yes, I did say don't, but you were looking for red before, and then I say don't see blue, and it switches in your brain. And, you know, I love this section here that talks about, you know, this reticular formation, and it's at the core of the brain stem, and it's, you know, 2 billion nerve cells. And what's going on is, you know, this activity in the brain. And when we say, you know, and I look out in the world and go, okay, we're just going to use that red and blue because it's up right now, you know, on our planet in the United States. We see people as red people or blue people. And, you know, it's like we've been sorting. And then some of us are like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't know that was a red person. I thought they were blue. And the red person says, I thought you were red too. I mean, it's really out in our world right now because we're sorting, and it's been being fed to us from the collective. You know, there is a lot of separation, and that happens in our brain, not with just something that we could, you know, point to as politically, but it happens all the time. We're sorting for what it is that we want to see, and it limits us. And so why we're talking about this is it activates something within your body in a way that, you know, it elevates your blood pressure. It elevates when we're doing some of this stuff. There is a physiological response that occurs within the system. So we, as religious scientists and science of mind folks, we know that there are some other tools, and we've already given you an important one that is really helpful for this aspect. And it's allowing yourself to have your mind quieted and going into meditation. And we don't use that as, oh, this is something good to do because, you know, you're in class, that's what you should do. But there really is some physiological science behind this for your body and for the opening to your consciousness. It gets you out of the muck that's out there. And, you know, you talked about that earlier, Joel. You know, if, you know, I could be in the muck. And one of the ways that we can step back from the muck is to quiet our mind. And I don't know about you, you know, when my mind is already active, it is a little challenging to quiet her down because she's just bouncing all over the place. But if I take the breath and I bring the breath in and I really allow that breath to, I can feel it in my brain area. I can feel it coming down to my heart area. It's one of the avenues that I use because I have a very overindulgent, active mind when it's been, I want to say traumatized, but energized, activated. Even when I can't sleep at night, you know, one of the things that I can do is take that breath in, and that is an aspect of meditation, which is why we have you, you know, looking each week at different ways what to do around meditation, so that this function of your brain can be calmed, and that allows consciousness outside of the, and there's a word we use and I can't remember it right now, Bonnie, you might help me, but it's what we call the soup, the collective soup. I refer to it as the collective soup. I know that in Science of Mind we call it as a different a word, but I'm going to call it for the time as the collective soup. And we've got a lot of collective soup out there right now. The fear-based, you know,
You mean race consciousness?
there you go. Thank you, Janice. Race consciousness. And it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with race. We know that. It's that, you know,
Human race.
yeah, the human race consciousness that is prone to fear and doubt and lack and limitation and all that stuff that can get our nervous systems just fried. And then we don't have that clarity of mind, the peace of mind, to be able to operate in such a way that we're clear. And so we wanted to bring this piece in so that you know that there is not something just spiritually that we're talking about and asking you, but that physiologically that your body will be so helped and aided. It's like food. It's essential as food and water is to you, or food and water are to you. So I like this piece that it says, we pay our electric bill and receive electricity. We pay our water bill and receive water. We pay for groceries and receive groceries. Notice what you are paying attention to, paying the coin of our energy. Pay attention to worry, fret, and trouble, and we receive more of the same. The reticular formation, and they're calling it the law, is at work and gives us more of what we are seeing. Pay attention to the good, for the potential for miracles, to the richness and abundance available, and we receive more of that. And we are reiterating over and over, our thinking, our thoughts create our reality. And from our thoughts we take action. And then, you know, it's a cycle. And what we have to do is go in and intervene with what is it that we're paying attention to. It's really important. And being able to, and using meditation is a way of just calming yourself so that you're not caught up in the monkey mind and racing everywhere but loose. It's an opportunity to loosen that reticular function and activity that's got you squeezed to only look at all the red or all the blue or don't see this. And it's not about will as much as it's about giving yourself that breath and the spaciousness to allow the reticular formation to reformat itself. It's like hitting the reformat button on the brain. So we wanted to bring you that as a opportunity and throw the science part of, because there's a lot of people say, how can a church or a religious being be about science? This is part of the science of looking at what occurs with our thinking and how that manifests in, you know, how it can be supported in the body or how it can be manifested in the body in ways that we may not want it to be. Any questions about this? Okay. So we wanted to talk about this because, you know, the brain is a really important function in how we construct our treatments and how we move forward in our lives. In that, you know, and so we're going to look at this aspect of affirmations, but before we do, and I don't know that this is in your book, I think it is, I'm just not certain which page because I have my teacher's manual too, but it's there's a template that says current condition and then spiritual truth. And I meant to call one of you guys earlier just to see in your books where that might be. Do you see that? I would actually, Jack, could you put that up for us? It doesn't even really matter that a book. And it's titled Preparation for Spiritual Mind Treatment and or Affirmations. So as Jack's finding it, I want you to be thinking about, we're going to give you the opportunity to choose 4 things, but tonight we're going to have you to choose 2 that you would like to be different, changed, or improved in your life. So whatever that may be, if you can take the opportunity to write at least 2 things that you would like to change, be different, or improve in your life. I bet it's in the teacher's manual, Jack. I apologize. I didn't get a chance to look at your thing that you sent me this afternoon. So we can just do it without it. So does everybody have at least 2 things that they'd like? Sandria, would you like to share one of yours? I'm going to ask each of you to share what that one thing would be.
I would like to move more from fear to faith, and more trust and more faith and more trust.
Okay. How about giving me a specific example in your life where where the fear shows up?
Well, this is always the guys I meet with every day know this one. I have a fear of death, and
Okay.
my own death. And
Right.
so that haunts me quite a bit. So I would like to move that into a trust and a faith.
Mhm. And so the other side of this, if we would have had the form, is finding the spiritual truth around that. So it's the opposite of the current condition, which will be the focus of the treatment or affirmation.
Okay.
My acknowledgement of the spiritual truth of my being. So you're saying that you want to have, you want to work on, you want to improve that fear of death. What would be the spiritual truth around that?
That that there is no such thing as death. That there's no such thing as death.
Okay. And can anybody give me a word that we would say that there's no such thing as death? What would be that spiritual principle? Janice?
Eternality.
Eternality. So death as the finite and eternality as the infinite. It's the opposite of it. So that's how we're going to do this, as whatever the problem or condition or circumstance that you would like to improve, change, or be different, we see it. We don't deny it. We see it. And then what is the spiritual truth? What is its opposite? Because that's a great way of how we can construct affirmations, as well as how we focus our spiritual mind treatment. So Janice, do you have something that you would like to share?
All right. I was trying to put it in the format, but I'd like to be more comfortable in crowds and more social, more comfortable in social situations. So the affirmation that I was thinking is that I'm safe and I am surrounded by light and love. I am always safe. I am always surrounded by light and love.
Mm-hmm. So you would say, you know, given this, and it doesn't have to be the truth or not, it's looking at it so that we're learning how to construct. And this is a great example. So you want to feel more comfortable in crowds, and you're looking at the truth being that you're always safe. So the discomfort in crowds is, I don't feel safe sometimes, I don't feel safe. So I shy away from it. And what I desire is the safety and the ease of being able to be with others without hesitation.
Mhm.
Is there something else, Bonnie, you would add into as the truth beyond that? Because I can make it can be basic, or it can be more complex.
Right. No, I think that's very good. And I'll just want to notice that it's not naming the condition.
Right.
The affirmation is not naming, I don't want to be fearful.
Right.
Because when we say, I don't want to be fearful, it makes us fearful.
As someone said to me early on in my formation of, walking on the planet as a spiritual being, a conscious spiritual being, is the universe does not hear not. So eliminate its use, because it's the attractor factor. If I say,
It's always yes. And I like to use the acronym of yes for this purpose. Yield energetically in spirit. Yield in spirit. Yes, that's what's always going on.
mhm. So that's why, when we get to the affirmations, we'll talk a little bit more about it. How about you, Joel? What's one thing you'd like to change, improve, or do about?
Well, what I immediately wrote down, because this is rather weighing on me, was to be more loving and patient with my mother. I'm living with my mother, and she's going through she has dementia, and so learning how to adapt, to grow with that.
Mhm. And so what do you see as the opposite? I mean, you have this event that's happening in your life that's on a regular basis, and you want to be more patient. So there is that sometimes impatience that shows up. And so you want to be more patient. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Anything else anybody would add to that as a spiritual truth for Joel? Janice?
That you are in service and of service.
Bingo. Bingo. Because the wanting to be more patient is really tapping into the condition rather than this is the truth of me. That I am in loving service to my mother.
And you can even go a little step further. My ears are in loving service to my mother. My mouth is in loving service to my mother. My hands, because these are really, the truth is that it's the hands, the mouth, all of the sensory is God. And when you consecrate it, when you literally consecrate, it makes it a little bit easier to affirm it.
Mhm. Does that make sense, Joel?
Can you say more, Bonnie, can you say more about
Yes.
consecration?
Right. It's sort of like consecrating my eyes to see the truth of her. Consecrating my ears to hear the truth of her.
Beyond her condition.
Hands to see the truth of her. So that it means that you're not trying to cure her. Got it?
Does that mean you're dedicating your eyes and your ears to that purpose?
Hey.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense to you, Joel?
I mean, I'm seeing all of this more as, well, the work is for me to how do I reach that place of I guess I'm still not quite at that point of understanding. Yeah, I don't quite understand because I see what I would like to be, or I would
Yes,
be able
okay.
to be of service more.
See if this would help. Whatever you put behind I am is what the affirmation is. So I am, what would you say towards your mother?
I am love. I am patience.
What else? I am
Caring. I am concerned. I am thoughtful. I am
concerned. Take the concern. Why would you not say concerned?
He did. Well, that's.
Joel, why wouldn't you say concerned?
I guess does concern carry a possible negative outcome?
Yes, because the
Condition.
universe says yes.
Yeah.
Yes, let's have more concern. Yes?
It's involving yourself more in the condition than the truth. So what we
Right.
talked about earlier in the mental equivalent, it's rising the consciousness above the condition of, and concern being the verb means it's going to be ing all the time rather than it rising above
Right.
beyond that.
So another example, Joel, that might help is divine action is happening. I am divine action happening.
So what I'm thinking now also is that concerned is really caring with worry.
Yes.
Well, we can say caring,
Caring. So you can be caring without, or yeah.
say concerned. The law is going to give you more concern.
I like what you said, Janice. It's that caring with
Caring with worry is concern. So you can care, or you can care with worry.
I am caring. So Joel, say I am caring and see how that feels.
I am caring.
How does that feel?
It feels without the burden of
Mhm.
negative outcome or
Yes. It has more expansiveness to it, is what it
Right.
feels like to me being on this end
Right.
than what concern would be, which would be I'm constricting. And that's one of the things that I look in my body now. It's a tool and a practice that I've just come to be reunited with is this causing me to feel expansive or am I contracting? Does it feel burdensome? And that might be helpful for you as you're, beginning to construct some affirmations for yourself along the way. But good job. I know it's not easy because you're immersed with people that have been around this philosophy for a while, and you are right on target. So I want to commend you for where you are and your willingness just to work it out and be right here with us in it all. So thank you.
well, I appreciate the multiple facets or perspectives that each of you have offered. It's very useful. Thank you.
Yeah. So Betty, do you have something you'd like to improve, change, or
Yes. Yes, I would like to integrate further my good feelings around self-talk. Do you want this? No.
All right. So what's the spiritual truth?
That I am a spiritual being having a human experience, and I don't have to dwell in the human.
And you got a little negative in there, and I don't.
Eliminate the don't.
So how would you reframe that from, and I don't have to?
And I allow myself to be in the spiritual frame of my beingness.
Perfect. You see the shift? Do you feel that rather
Yes,
than don't?
it's uplifting. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So did everybody get a chance to at least share one of them? Okay. Well, we'll move to affirmations, and some of us are pretty familiar with affirmations. We, by virtue of being on the planet as long as we've been, affirmations were a fad for a while, but it is really an amazing spiritual tool, particularly when we're constructing our treatments, when we're beginning to learn what it is that we're treating for. It helps shift, and if you can use these same 5 rules that we find on page 3 in your manual, your study guide. And so I'm just going to review quickly. There are 5 aspects that we want to have happen when we construct affirmations. Yeah, one more, Jack. Down one more. There we go. Yep. Nope, the other way. There we go, stop. Okay, so in writing affirmations, can we make that a little larger, Jack? I don't know how to, you're being so masterful at all of this, I appreciate it. But as Jack may be doing, oh, there we go, zooming in, yay. So quickly it is, we wanna make them personal. I am, I know, I let. So the personal is the I. We make them short because what we want to do is if we're memorizing them, or as Janice was saying earlier, she starts with treating her consciousness of worthiness. So I'm certain she's got several affirmations that just she can click into immediately by using, you know, a short something that can be remembered. And you write it in the present tense. We're not talking about the past, and we're not hoping and wishing and wanting for the future. Because if we know the law and it says yes to everything, what happens when I'm wishing, wanting, and wishing? Wishing, wanting, and hoping, as we would say in Ohio. I get more wishing, wanting, and hoping, but I'm not probably manifesting what it is that my heart desires. It is, what am I choosing? So we want to make it in the present tense, right today, this moment, and then we want to make the vocabulary personal to you. Use your own manner of speaking. We're going to go over some affirmations, but if it doesn't feel expansive to you, we're asking you to make it personal to you. You know, I may say something and somebody said, whoa, that is a little woo-woo for me. It doesn't work. It works for me because that's what I'm hooked into. That's what I'm tuned into. But it doesn't mean you have to tune into it. So make it personal. And then be specific. We don't go to all the details of this is how I want it to be and this is what that needs to look like, the particular color, all of that. Although that can be helpful to understand and know it so we can recognize it. But in an affirmation, we're not outlining, is what we call it. And in doing these affirmations, we want you to be able to create a couple this week for yourself to use. And it suggests that you do it from your goals of last week, but I'm going to suggest that you find something, the things that we talked about, and, you know, find 3 other things that you'd like to improve, change, or whatever, have different, and write an affirmation for yourself and place them in strategic places. You know, I started off years ago by putting on the mirror because I barely looked in the mirror, but I would read something on my mirror. I didn't necessarily like looking at the image in the mirror, but at least I could read something. And that was giving that reticular, you know, formation in my brain, something to lock in on, and say them to yourself several times a day. And it's not like, oh, I'm a passionate, beautiful, trusting person, It's like, no, I am a passionate, powerful, beautiful, and trusting woman. That's who I am. Because anything that follows that I am, Spirit's going to come back. My knowledge is with an exclamation mark. And so I want it to be amplified. So we say it with feeling, not just by roteness. And I found it's been helpful sometimes early on. I would record them. And now that we have our little iPhones, it's so easy to record a couple things. And I hit the play button before I go to sleep. And sometimes that's the way I'm programming my brain before I go to sleep. And it's surprising what happens to my dream level and what changes. And again, if the words don't feel right, you just restate them until they do for you. Bonnie?
I just want to offer that another thing that's very powerful is to read them while you're looking at yourself in a mirror.
Yes. And, you know, some of us have been around for a while to do affirmations, but I'm going to ask you, this is a new day. And this is a new course. And then this is a new way. You haven't ever been here February 1st, 2022. You may have had experiences in the past, but trust us and utilize this tool next week. So Jack, if you could bring up the slide that would be affirmations for problem solving and overcoming obstacles. And this would be in your page 6 in your study guide. And so there, you know, and we've given you, the study guide has given you many affirmations that you can choose from. And they've actually even labeled them for more prosperity, freeing yourself from the past, dealing with impossible people, affirmations for health, affirmations for love. But we're going to go over to the one that's problem solving and overcoming obstacles. And there's a lot that you'll see in here. Florence Scovel Shin, and she wrote a book around affirmations. And so a lot of this comes out of her book. And I meant to do some homework before I got here to talk about, she's, you know, she's an amazing writer that was popular probably 20 years ago. And what I remember, something that she wrote is 10 Ways of Being Human or something like that. I'm probably butchering it. If anybody knows what that book is, feel free to. But so they have definitely quoted her a lot with some affirmations. And some of them may not resonate with you, but I'm asking you, and well, it was another one, but we're just going to use this one since Jack put the impossible people and health and love. I want you to pick out one that calls to you and then read it out loud. Betty or Sue? And you're muted. Betty, you're muted.
I feel great. I radiate perfect health.
All right.
Thank you, Janice, for your treatment.
Great. All right. Sandria.
I haven't had a chance to go through all of them.
Okay.
But one that strikes me, what God has done for others, he can do for me and more. I like that.
Janice.
I'm so happy I am now with my ideal mate.
Ooh, yes.
Yay.
Yeah. And Joel.
I am worthy of love. It is safe for me to give and receive love.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You feel the vibration that it creates within your body when you say this. You know, it doesn't always, it may not be an immediate thing, but when we're looking at this as a spiritual tool in our spiritual toolbox for when life is lifing and we're being impacted by circumstances, situations, events, attitudes, race consciousness, that having this something, you know, I would like to say 3 or 4, 3 to 5 in your wallet. It's like, or your back pocket. As a practitioner in another modality, we would do some things from a healing standpoint, and we would call it was our back pocket treatments. It's like, whoa, somebody just cut me off. It's like, you know, coming up with something that just shifts the energy so that I'm not in that mental equivalent of, it's like, oh, all is well and I'm safe. Because I just got scared is really what happened when somebody cut me off. I went into anger or fear. And so I want to do something that interrupts that, what could be the mental equivalent, that I'm out there creating more of it.
Right.
And so that's the purpose of the affirmations, is interrupting that mental equivalent that we've had and shifting gears. And I call it raising consciousness.
Right.
It's amping it up just a little bit by little bit. Janice.
Can you say a little bit also about spiritual bypass and how that kind of fits in here?
We don't, thank you. I think that's an important aspect too. It's that life is lifing us all the time. And there are things that are occurring. We turn on the news, we see, you know, we see things that are occurring. It's not that we're going to ignore it and say, oh, no, it's not happening. What we do is that we're not going to engage with it. It's happening, but there, at one level, and we talked a little bit about this, but it's the application of it. I think it's really important, particularly with the news. There's not a lick of truth about it, the capital truth, the capital T truth. You know, all is well, everything is in divine order, and the world is behaving the way the world is behaving. So I acknowledge that I see it, but I'm not going to be jumping in that sea of receptivity, because that's a huge sea of receptivity.
Right.
You know, ain't it awful? You know, look what's happening. I want to drop into the sea of receptivity that is expansive, that is the truth of the matter. But it's not that I'm putting on my sunglasses and ignoring that life is happening,
Right.
because that is spiritual bypassing. It's like, la, 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 you know, and some people, you know, in the past, and somebody today in my life was saying exactly the same thing. You know, you people just go to the la la land, and you don't, you know, you don't see reality, and reality's subjective.
Right.
You know, and I see it, but I'm not in it.
Yes. Can I offer something, Diana?
Sure.
You know that in this human experience, when we start with I am, and we're saying I'm frustrated, and we catch ourselves, then we can do an anchor up until now, so that we're acknowledging and recognizing that right here, right now, I could make a shift into something different. But the reason why that's really important is because part of God is full expression. It's not like God is holier than thou. Full expression is really, really important. And when we fully express, we very often self-reveal our subjective mind. We find the conflicts, the inner conflicts that we're going to work on, but we can anchor it. You know, it's like, oh, I am an angry person up until now, and then affirm what the opposite is. So it's like the bypass is when we claim a condition and don't let ourselves grow in the awareness of it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Janice. I think that's really an important distinction to bring up at this level, because it's not the hop, skip, and jump over. It's that we are tapping into a higher vibration, and it's not, we're not cognizant of what is impacting humanity right now. And what we do as practitioners is we hold the higher truth. And, you know, we're all practitioners, whether we're licensed or not. We're learning this rich way of being. And again, I go back to remind us that we're building a healing consciousness. So my request of you is to go back, particularly for the problem solving and overcoming obstacle part of the affirmations.
Can I ask a question, Diane?
Sure.
Diana, before you go forward with this. So I don't watch the news, so I have no idea factually what's going on right now. I know that things are interesting, but every day in my prayers, I send blessings and love to everyone, no exceptions.
Right.
Is that spiritual bypass?
I would not consider that to be that. I mean, it's the spiritual, for me, it would be looking at the news and going, oh, but it's all well, it's all good, it's all, you know, and from a place of not being present. Your choice is to not look at the news. That is really your choice to do. It's all of our choice if we choose. And what you choose to do is, in knowing that there are conditions out in the world that people are engaged in, and you're sending love and light to everyone, regardless of what's going on, affiliation, whatever, you're sending the infinite intelligence and love out there to everyone.
And then I also say God is in it. So that's okay.
And that's for you to remember. You know, that's not bypassing, that's the truth.
Okay.
That God is in it. And, you know, it's an interesting demonstration right now that we're having on the planet.
It is. It's really important to understand that you're not doing a thing to God.
No, that's not what, well, I didn't mean that, but I just meant I want to make sure that I am not doing what Janice was bypassing by saying, I know God is in this.
Right.
That's
The bypassing has so much to do with when we're in conflict, denying it.
okay.
You
No,
know?
I don't deny it. No.
Right. You know, well, it's not about condemning, denying it.
Mhm.
It's about understanding that our job is to resolve all conflict
Mhm.
in truth. So,
Well, thank you for that question. That's a good
Yes.
question, a good conversation. And again, going back to the affirmations, I'd ask you to go to the affirmations for problem solving and overcoming obstacles, because there's some interesting languaging here. And there's some of them that might be, I don't believe that. And, you know, I want you to be with that one also that's like, and see what that brings up for you, because that is also a something you can treat towards or reaffirm in the words that work for you. Like, I'm going to tell you one that I don't particularly resonate with. I cast this burden on the Christ within and I go free. Well, it is all about the past, you know, and what I was conditioned with about the Christ. Now, I have a different experience of that today, but it wouldn't be one that I would necessarily go to. And I don't have a good one that I could say that I would reframe it. I cast my love on the infinite presence.
right.
Because I'm not even going to look at the burden. I'm going to cast my love. And it's not that I'll ignore it, because I really want to be keen that whatever is happening right now, I cast this this condition into the law that dissipates the energy within me. But that's my languaging, and that gets a little convoluted. So I'm asking you to see something in this list and work with it for yourself. And Janice, you're smiling. You have something.
I like something wonderful is about to happen. I love that one.
Good. Well, is it clear? I mean, this was your
Good.
homework for the week, but I want you to practice this moving forward. As we do each week, we're giving you more spiritual tools. It doesn't mean drop one and then work on the other one. It means include it. So practicing including affirmations for yourself, particularly when you're finding yourself in some kind of disharmonious situation or event that you don't feel real expansive in the moment. Get your vibration. You're in charge of shifting that vibration for yourself. And one of the ways we talked about already is meditation. So I didn't hear anybody talk about the meditation and, doing their altar, but I would love for, I did look at last week's keys. Let's see here. I had it open, but well, I won't go backwards, but you're all adults and you will have at least read that gray part that would have been pages. Let's see, I'm trying to make everything easy for myself. 56 to 60 was what we came through. And I love that at the end of these gray areas that Reverend Edward puts keys, and the keys for last week were schedule meditation on your calendar and keep the appointment, even if you don't feel like meditating. And then 2, create a space for your meditation practice, one that generates an atmosphere conducive to stillness and relaxation. So I'm going to remind you of that. So we didn't talk about that. And this week, we're going to be on page 87, 88, and 89. And the key on 90, I'm just going to give you the key, but I want you to read the rest of it, is take a break in your practice schedule is helpful. Taking a break in your practice schedule is helpful now and then. 2, trying different meditation exercises now and then is helpful. So this is one of my favorites because I love music. And music is one of my favorite ways in walking that I do walking meditation. And they're suggesting in the book is to do something that has no words to it. But boy, walking, oof, I love walking with great meditation music that, I'll put on some Karen Drucker or Michael Beckwith's Transcendent CD. And, I could only imagine what people are thinking as I have my dogs with me and I am dancing down the street because it's my favorite way to meditate. So look at this and try your meditation. Remember, it's a physiological difference that's going to be made in your body and lowering your blood pressure and bringing you peace of mind. So with that, is there anything that we have left unsaid or that there is questions in your mind or comments that you would like to make? Because we are now out of time. So I am going to ask if, let me say this, we will be reading chapter 18 next week, pages 294 to 307, and be prepared for discussion out of that and your student guide. Because remember, we're looking forward to seeing what projects are noodling up in your brains, what God has in store for us through you in building your healing consciousness, whether it's a poem, whatever, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. And if you haven't called someone for prayer this week, I'm going to encourage you to do so. It doesn't have to be Bonnie or I, anybody in the group. We don't have a group list, but, most of you, with the exception of Joel, and I know that you guys, Janice, you and Joel are in connection, but please get treatment. Have a treatment, give a treatment. Be in practice of this amazing tool. So
And Joel, you're on Slack now. I think I saw you come in.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're all on Slack as well. So that's a way of communicating with each other. Just check your Slack.
Yes, check Slack. Anything else, Reverend Jack?
No, I just want to say absolutely thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will post the slides from tonight on Slack so that you can print them out for your leisure. Also, Bonnie, and I think we're going to have a little dose of our own creation of financial freedom that we offer to folks, maybe as just a one-day thing, because it's now no longer a part of the CSL curriculum.
Ooh.
No.
So I had to go really exploring my roots, so to speak, to find my copy of where Betty and I offered it in 2017.
Yes.
It's the last time we taught it down here, and I found it, and I sent Diana and Bonnie some background. There was a reference to the Coach Day Everywhere that
Right.
Diana mentioned earlier this evening. That was in the handout that I gave them. So we might have some fun time talking about that as we go forward.
Mhm.
But other than that, thank you all, thank you all, thank you all. And Diana, I'll give it back to you for whoever is going to do our benediction.
Mhm.
Who is going to do the volunteering to pray us out and send us out into the week? Oh, Betty, I just see that you're so ready to do that. But before you do, Betty, you have to unmute. We'd love to hear you.
So, yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let us come together in the consciousness, knowing that God is all that there is. And right here, right now, we are experiencing the expression of our particularities in that knowing. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you, your gifts, your contributions, how much I enjoyed this class tonight, because you were there. You were giving your gifts to help us all better prepare ourselves to be in that persona that is so dynamic. And so I am so grateful. I give thanks. I bless us all. I know this week will bring many wonderful, unexpected events. And I release this into love and the law, and so it is.
No, it is.
Yes.
So it is.
Everybody, great job tonight. Thanks for your participation.